Biggie Smalls, he's an artist that I listen to his music, I love his work. There's no beef, it's nothing personal. I don't hate him and I don't disrespect him and I love what he do.
For years, fans have wondered about the truth behind Biggie Smalls' death. Now, after decades of silence, Snoop Dogg is finally speaking out. The stories, the rumors, the heartbreak, it all comes to light. Stay tuned as we hear Snoop Dogg's side of the story for the very first time. The last chapter of Biggie Smalls. Yo, listen up. This one ain't just a story, it's a warning. A look into the life of one of hip-hop's biggest icons before the world lost him. March 9, 1997. Los Angeles, the city of bright lights and dark corners, was supposed to be another night for Christopher Wallace, better known as Biggie Smalls, the notorious B.I.G. The 24-year-old king of Brooklyn had everything going for him. Fame, respect, and a brand new album, Life After Death, that was already making waves. But even legends aren't untouchable. Biggie's final days were all about pushing his music and keeping the peace. Just months before, Tupac Shakur, his friend turned rival, had been killed, sparking waves of tension across the East Coast, West Coast hip-hop scene. Biggie, now a father to a young son and recently recovering from a car accident that left him walking with a cane, was determined to rise above the beef. He wanted his music to speak louder than the violence, and he was putting in work, shooting the video for Hypnotize, meeting with his team, planning his next tour, and trying to enjoy the moment. By March 7th, Biggie was at the Soul Train Music Awards, soaking up the spotlight and showing off that calm, confident charisma that made everyone respect him. He gave interviews reflecting on Tupac's death, trying to process the loss himself, and even though he was still respected on stage, the LA crowd wasn't exactly feeling the East Coast vibe. When he stepped up to announce Toni Braxton as the winner of Best R&B Soul Single, some boos hit him. A stark reminder that even in the industry, tension was real. After the awards, Biggie hung back in LA, the originally planned Europe trip canceled, leaving him with some free time at the Westwood Marcus Hotel. He spent part of the day with his agent, Phil Casey, talking tour plans and wrapping up details for the next chapter of his career. But Biggie was restless. He wanted out, wanted the energy of the city, and convinced his crew to hit up an industry party at the Peterson Automotive Museum, co-hosted by Quincy Jones's Vibe magazine. On paper, it was supposed to be safe, just music, artists, and celebration. But the streets had other plans. Inside, Biggie was living it up. He sipped champagne, laughed with friends, and even let fans and fellow artists like Aaliyah and Missy Elliott tell him how much they admired him. Russell Simmons remembered throwing money at him, saying, "I want to be like you." And Biggie just laughed, cool and unbothered. The speakers blasted Hypnotize every 10 minutes, and for a while, it seemed like everything was perfect. But as the clock struck 12:30 a.m., the venue got too packed and the fire department shut things down. Biggie and his crew headed back to the hotel, still vibing, still feeling untouchable. But then, the street struck. Biggie rode shotgun in a green GMC Suburban, next to his driver Gregory G Money Young, with his friends in the back. Sean Puffy Combs was in the lead SUV with bodyguards, rolling just ahead. And just like that, a dark Chevrolet Impala pulled up beside Biggie at a red light on Wilshire and Fairfax. The man inside made eye contact, lifted his gun, and emptied it. Bullets ripped through the night, hitting Biggie 4 times, shattering the energy of the city in one shocking moment. Combs ran across the street to the Suburban and found Biggie slumped over, bleeding, barely conscious. His friends raced him to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where medical teams rushed in, carrying the nearly 400-pound rapper on a gurney. But it was too late. Less than an hour later, at 1:15 a.m., the notorious B.I.G., the king of Brooklyn, was pronounced dead. The streets had claimed another giant. What followed in the hours and days after his death would shock the world and leave a trail of unanswered questions, forever changing the lives of those who knew him. After the fall, the aftermath? Man, it hit hard. Friends, family, and fans were left in shock, staring at a reality nobody wanted to face. Instead of celebrating milestones, they were forced to process a tragedy that shook hip-hop to its very core. Years later, an autopsy revealed just how deadly that final shot had been. The bullet entered through Biggie's right hip, tearing through his colon, liver, heart, and left lung before finally coming to rest in his left shoulder. One shot, that's all it took to silence a voice the world would never forget. His funeral, held on March 18th at the Frank E. Campbell Funeral Chapel in Manhattan, became a gathering of legends. Over 350 mourners came to pay their respects, including Lil Cease, Queen Latifah, Flavor Flav, Mary J. Blige, Lil Kim, Run DMC, DJ Kool Herc, Busta Rhymes, Salt and Peppa, DJ Spinderella, Foxy Brown, and Sister Soulja. Even David Dinkins and Clive Davis showed up, proving just how far Biggie's influence reached. After the service, his body was cremated at Fresh Pond Crematory in Queens, and his ashes were returned to his family, a quiet end to a public heartbreak. 16 days after Biggie was gone, the whole world felt the shock differently. His second album, Life After Death, dropped and it hit like an earthquake. This wasn't just another release. This was a message from a man who wasn't even here to witness his own victory. The album went straight to #1 on the Billboard 200. No hesitation, no slow climb, just domination. It even popped up earlier at number 176 because people couldn't wait. Stores were breaking the release date, and fans were scrambling to get their hands on it. And when the numbers came in, they were massive. 4 times platinum. One of the highest selling rap albums ever at the moment it hit shelves. It tied MC Hammer's Please Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em, which tells you just how huge the demand was. The world wasn't ready to let Biggie go. Then came the singles. Hypnotize was already burning through the charts, but the follow-up? Mo Money Mo Problems, featuring Puff and Mace, blew the doors off everything. It shot straight to #1 on the Hot 100, making Biggie the first artist in history to have 2 posthumous #1 singles. The man was gone, but his music was still out here winning championships. That's how powerful his voice was. The third single, Sky's the Limit, kept the momentum going, and the music video was unforgettable. Spike Jonze directed it, using kids to play younger versions of Biggie, Puff, Busta, Lil' Kim, basically the whole crew. It was playful, creative, and strangely emotional, like watching a legacy being reborn in real time. By the end of 1997, magazines and critics couldn't ignore it. Spin named Biggie Artist of the Year, and Hypnotize took Single of the Year. Even in death, he was still outshining the living. But here's the real truth. Biggie's final days were never just about that one tragic moment. They were about everything he carried on his shoulders. The fame, the pressure, the danger, the dream he was fighting for. He was climbing fast, breaking records, shifting the culture, proving that a kid from Brooklyn could shake the entire world. Yet, the streets didn't care about his talent, his fame, or his son. They only moved with the next moment, the next action. In that instant, the world lost the notorious B.I.G., a king taken far too soon. In the aftermath, an investigation began, but the truth remained elusive, leaving questions that would echo for years to come. Chasing the truth. The investigation into Biggie Smalls' death is a story that's messy, dark, and full of questions that may never get answered. From the jump, the LAPD was on the case, but things got twisted fast. Key detectives like Russell Poole were raising alarms, saying straight up that some cops might have been working with death row records behind the scenes. Poole said he was seeing evidence being buried, leads being ignored, and theories suppressed. Frustrated, he walked away, calling it a cover-up. And the streets? They were whispering, watching, and feeling the tension. Meanwhile, the FBI jumped in, opening a civil rights investigation in 1997. They were trying to figure out if law enforcement had any hand in Biggie's murder. That investigation ran for 8 years, but when it closed in 2005, there were no arrests, no charges, no justice. Just dead silence where answers should have been. Then came Greg Kading, a retired LAPD detective, who wasn't afraid to dig into the streets and the gang connections. Kading says the case is solved, but not prosecuted. According to him, Biggie's death wasn't random. It was straight-up retaliation for Tupac's murder 6 months earlier. Kading points the finger at Suge Knight, the Death Row Records boss and Biggie's label rival, claiming he set the whole thing up. And the shooter? Wardell Poochie Fowles, a Mob Peru gang member tight with Knight. But Poochie died in 2003, and just like that, the trail went cold. Nobody ever faced the law for Biggie's murder. Even with Kading's claims, officially, the case is still unsolved. Biggie's family tried to fight back. They filed 2 wrongful death lawsuits against the LAPD, saying the cops didn't do enough, or worse, that some officers were part of the plot. The first lawsuit ended in a mistrial. The second, dismissed. That's it. Nothing. No closure, just more questions, more frustration, and more whispers about what really happened that night on Wilshire and Fairfax. And yeah, you got the East Coast, West Coast theory. Everyone in hip-hop knows it. Biggie's death came 6 months after Tupac was killed, and the streets and the media were pointing fingers, connecting dots in a deadly feud between New York and LA labels. Some say the murder was revenge, a message sent in cold blood. But here's the thing, nobody's ever proved it. No court, no evidence, just rumors and speculation mixed with street stories. Then you got the Poochie angle, the name everyone whispers when the case comes up. On the streets, the story goes that he tailed Biggie from the Peterson Auto Museum, rolled up to that corner and let off shots without hesitation. Some folks swear Suge Knight was the mastermind, pulling strings from the shadows and reminding the whole industry that the game had rules written in blood. But with Poochie gone, no one got cuffed, and all that's left is talk, rumors in barbershops, late-night theories, and stories traded on corners. 2 decades later, people are still trying to stitch the truth together, still chasing the ghost of what really went down. And then you got the crew that was riding with Biggie that night. When they finally spoke, their voices came with raw emotion, fear, confusion, and the kind of details only survivors can give. Their accounts added heat to the story, but no hard answers, just more layers, and a case that still refuses to land on the truth. What they revealed that night in LA didn't just change hip-hop, it changed everyone who was close to Biggie, especially the people riding with him. And at the center of it all was Diddy, sitting in the car right behind Biggie's SUV, watching the night spin out of control. Diddy's memory of that moment has always sounded like someone replaying a nightmare they can't wake up from. At first, he told Rolling Stone it felt unreal, like the world slowed down and sped up at the same time. 1 second they were leaving the party, music still ringing in their ears. The next, gunshots cracked through the night and everything turned into chaos. He said it felt like a surreal blur, the kind where your mind refuses to accept what your eyes are telling you. When he ran to Biggie's SUV, he wasn't thinking about cameras, fame, or the world watching. He was thinking like a friend trying to save another friend. He helped pull Biggie's body across the seat, trying to get him out. When they rushed him to the hospital, Diddy said he ended up on his knees, praying, begging, hoping the night wasn't already written in stone. But somebody had to break the news to Biggie's mother, and when another friend couldn't speak through the tears, it fell on Diddy. He said it was one of the hardest calls of his life, and the guilt never left him. For years, he's talked about that weight, the kind you feel in your chest every day, not because you caused something, but because you were there. In one interview, he admitted, "I think I'll always feel some sort of responsibility. Not because he did anything wrong, but because Biggie was his artist, his brother, his friend. And in his mind, that meant protection. What eats at him most is the London trip. Biggie was supposed to fly out that night. Diddy convinced him to stay. Every time he talks about it, you can hear the regret in his voice, like he wishes he could grab time by the collar and force it backward. He later said he should have trusted his gut and put Biggie on that plane. That thought still follows him. He described Biggie's death as a heavy weight to wear, and you can tell it's not just words. It's something that shaped the rest of his life. Lil Cease carries his own version of that night. He wasn't in the car behind Biggie. He was right there in the passenger seat next to him. When he talks about the shooting, the details don't sound like rumors or theories. Cease says the killer's car wasn't rolling past like the typical drive-by story. According to him and Gene Deal, the shooter's car was already stopped at the light. Cease remembers something else too, the man in the blue suit with the bow tie. A strange detail that stuck with him like a snapshot frozen in time. People online have tried to attach last words to Biggie, but Cease has never confirmed any of it. Some things he keeps to himself. Then there's Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, the man who always said the night didn't feel right. He sensed something off before they even left the party. He said it to Diddy, warned him, but the warning got brushed off. Everyone was tired of paranoia, tired of living like every shadow had teeth. After the shots, Deal was the one pulling Biggie's body out of the car. He later told Vibe, "I saw this kid lose his life. This kid died while I was pulling him out of the car." And that's not something you forget. He said it changed him forever. Even people who weren't there felt the shockwave. Dame Dash, who lived through that whole era, later looked back at the East Coast, West Coast drama and said it in the plainest way possible. People die. Beef is stupid. And he wasn't lying. When the dust finally settled, hip-hop had lost two giants, two young legends with families, dreams, and futures that never got the chance to unfold. But in the middle of all that chaos, one person's testimony cut through the noise and made people stop. His words didn't come from rumor or street talk. They came from first-hand experience. His account became one of the most talked about pieces of the entire tragedy, shaping how people remembered those final days. And that voice was Snoop Dogg's. Snoop's unfiltered take. When Snoop Dogg finally stepped forward to talk about what he saw, what he felt, and what he lived through, people listened. Not because he wanted attention, and not because he was trying to rewrite history, but because he had lived right in the heart of the storm. He wasn't speaking as a rapper defending a coast. He wasn't speaking as a death row artist trying to keep the label image. He was speaking as a man who had seen too much and lost too much in a short amount of time. He told the truth the way it happened, raw, uncomfortable, and without picking sides. And that honesty shook people. Snoop explained how the whole East Coast, West Coast drama was bigger than any one person. Bigger than Biggie, bigger than Pac, bigger than both labels. It was a machine of pride, anger, and misunderstandings that kept pulling everyone in deeper. And while the world saw two giants clashing, Snoop saw the human side no one talked about. The pain in Biggie's eyes, the frustration in Pac's voice, and the fear building in the streets. He talked about moments the public never saw, the way Pac would shut down after interviews, the quiet conversations backstage where Biggie would admit he didn't want war, he just wanted to rap. The way Snoop felt stuck in the middle, trying to keep the peace while people around him expected him to choose blood over truth. And when he spoke about those final months, after Pac was gone, and before Biggie was taken, it hit differently, because Snoop was one of the few who reached out, who actually sat face to face with Biggie during the time everyone thought they were sworn enemies. He said Biggie didn't look like a man ready to fight. He looked like a man carrying weight, a man grieving someone he once called a brother before the politics turned them into opponents. That part changed everything. It made people rethink the narrative. It reminded the world that beneath the headlines and diss tracks were real people caught in something way bigger than themselves. Snoop's testimony became the bridge. It softened some of the hostility. It made fans question how far things had gone. And for the first time, it exposed the cost of loyalty when loyalty is tied to fear instead of respect. The streets heard him. The industry heard him. And even years later, people still go back to that interview, that moment, trying to understand how things spiraled the way they did. Because when Snoop broke it down, he wasn't just telling a story. He was giving a warning about pride, about misunderstanding, about how easily you can lose legends when egos become weapons. And that's why his voice still stands out. In a time when everyone was shouting, he was one of the few speaking from the heart, saying what needed to be said, even if it cost him everything at the label. His truth didn't fix the past, but it gave people a clearer picture. And sometimes, that honesty is the only thing left standing after the smoke clears.